like cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, Straight Game TV, platinum artist, platinum songwriter. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Hit the subscription button. The thumbs up is always appreciated. And you can also hit the bell notification if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game. I'm going to get right into it. This question right here comes from a brother from North Carolina. What is that? Raleigh, North Carolina. And the question is, if Death Row didn't have a accounting department and they didn't account to any artists for their royalties, did they really truly have any kind of power? And my observation and the information that I have and what I understood even back then at that particular time is no, they didn't. They had the public perception of power and all of the things that, you know, people had heard that Suge Knight had did to people, you know, the Vanilla Ice situation, the guy that he made drink urine, all of the various beatdowns and things like that, the East and West Coast beef and what people have been saying about Suge Knight. But from a real perspective and like actually being able to cut those checks and being a actual corporate powerhouse in the game, I would have to say absolutely not. You know what I mean? And that's just from my own personal observation and the gathering of facts and the things that I come to know in regards to that. And I'm going to give it to you like this as a prime example. People, say, yeah, Death Row and, they love Tupac and so on and so forth. But what most people don't even know is that Interscope, right? Interscope and not Death Row, they underwrote the memorial service for Tupac in Atlanta in November of 1996. Get it? It was Interscope that underwrote the memorial service, not Death Row, for Tupac in November of 1996. So when you understand that, and people saying, the power that Death Row had and the love, where's the love? Where was the love? You couldn't fund Tupac's memorial service? And so that's what I'm saying, that people have been missing out on this information. So that's a great question that you propose. Once again, and I'm going to go with this right here. It says, Interscope has, in a way, been a model of corporate responsibility indeed. In a strictly corporate sense, it has done more than it was required. They're saying Tupac was not officially Interscope's artist after all. But Interscope executives may feel a level of responsibility for having pushed Tupac into Suge's arms. And there is also a compelling business rationale for Interscope to do everything possible to quell the skirmish between Tupac's estate and Death Row. As one lawyer close to the situation points out, if Afeni didn't get what she wanted from Death Row, she would surely sue not only Death Row, but Interscope as well, on the theory that the companies were so closely related as to have shared exposure. Being subject to a legal process of discovery on this issue could hardly have been an attractive prospect for Interscope, particularly in light of the ongoing criminal probe of Death Row at that time, which was under investigation by the FBI for money laundering and all of these other accusations. They said they dealt drugs, cocaine, and so on and so forth. And you've heard as of recent in the documentary The Last Man Standing, that some of the people who actually worked up at death row actually confirmed that there was, some type of nefarious activity involving drugs going on up at death row. So, when you ask that question to the brother from North Carolina, when you ask that question, you're absolutely on point. And what I like about people who really want the facts and the truth and are really trying to seek out what it was versus what people are running around saying that it was, who wasn't really there. I was there. I was around at that particular time. And so, like I said, I don't know all of the intricacies of what went on at death row, but I knew people at death row. Like I said, my man Jay Flex, who wrote California Love, who wrote a lot of stuff for Dr. Dre, and so on and so forth, as well as a few other people that I knew there, which I won't say their names because, like I said, they very people who are married to certain people and so on and so forth that I would get information from, not wanting it, but actually, just through conversation of what it was really like, as well as from Tupac itself when I asked him, how did he, did he like being up at death row? You know what I mean? From that perspective. But what we come to find out later, from that perspective is like, no, they really didn't have any kind of corporate power or corporate strength or any kind of say so from that perspective. If you ask me, I would tell you that Harry O, Michael Harris, the guy who actually gave the $1.5 million to basically fund death row, had more power than Suge Knight. Absolutely. I would say Michael Harris had more power because at the end of the day, when Michael Harris threatened to sue, Interscope and death row, like Afeni, basically was going to do if she had to, when Michael Harris did it, they basically understood that, look, it's true. And so we need to handle this and we need to take care of this. And they basically settled the lawsuit with Michael Harris. You understand what I'm saying? So if there is no Michael Harris or Harry O, as he's known in the streets, there is no death row as we know it today. As we know it today, like I said, you cannot remove that element of what that was to be able to do anything. And so the money that has been garnered, through certain acquisitions by Hasbro at one time, recently by this new venture capital company that just purchased death row and the rights to the masters, the names and all of that stuff, like I said, for like $300 million. So you got to understand, if not for Harry O, this doesn't take place. None of this, all of these current transactions and so on and so forth, they don't take place. And so, it was a great question that you asked. Yeah. So no, death row, Suge Knight, not having, being able to account, and cut royalty checks, just simply do the basic, fundamental operations of a record company. Not having that, it, basically shows you, where they were. But like I said, once again, the public persona of death row, what it was, the people that hung around, the mystique that Suge had prior to, showing his face and being on the cover of magazines, it worked well. But I think once that veil was lifted and he wanted a little bit more promotion, it kind of like took that away. And so, yeah, when you think about it, from a real standpoint, yeah. And like I said, we come to find out that, they say that Tupac was not officially Interscope's artist, but he was. And the only reason why they said that back then was because they didn't want to deal with any kind of, any ramifications that came from any mishaps that came from Tupac while he was out on bail. But we seen once, he passed away and the paperwork, basically surfaced, we seen that, okay, yeah, Tupac was officially still Interscope's artist, as well as once we seen the agreement that who actually paid Tupac's bail. You see what I'm saying? So that goes into everything that, people had thought they knew, but they didn't really know. So Interscope was pump faking and had death row out there bearing the brunt of anything that might go on, that might transpire, making Suge the front man on the lead, like, yeah, death row paid the bail. At that time, Interscope, what Tupac wasn't, officially Interscope's artist, but unofficially he was. Officially meaning, publicly, through what they were trying to promote as far as, these the public image of what it was. So yeah, not officially, but unofficially, he was. And so that's how the business is played and the business is done. But like I said, as to your question, it wasn't really what it appeared to be. And like I said, people were saying, this $300-400 million that Death Row is worth, and so on and so forth. Like I said, I'm not counting or patting anybody's pockets in regards to that. I just know what I know in regards to the music industry and the music business and how it really works. And you got these big two corporate behemoths, and they not giving no power to no Suge Knight like that. You know what I mean? You can run your label, we'll cut the checks. You know what I mean? And just tell us what you need, and we'll make that happen, as long as you keep on selling records like you did with The Chronic, as well as with Doggy Style. And then, we seen what happened when Tupac came and they dropped All Eyes on Me. We seen what that was. And so, but that was something that, was Interscope's and Warner Brothers doing, because they understood once Me Against the World, like I said, had beat out Bruce Springsteen on the charts. They knew, they were like, okay, we can get him out now. And people stop being so naive to the gossip and the garbage that these other channels are pushing out. The reason why Tupac was able to make bail, listen to this, is because when his album, Me Against the World, had sold 212 some thousand records in the first week, beating out Bruce Springsteen, it was then that they didn't even need to dig into the corporate coffers, Interscope or any of them. They basically said, okay, cool. So it made it look like, Interscope put up this much money, for as part of their portion. Atlantic put up $850,000 as part of their portion, and so on and so forth. But really, truthfully, honestly, that was already Tupac's money that he had made from the record sales of the first week sales from Me Against the World. When you really, truly understand it unofficially, not officially, but unofficially, when you look behind the curtains and really what that meant, and you do the real mathematics behind the situation. So yeah, like I said, to the brother from Raleigh, North Carolina, no, they didn't. Death Row didn't have, and Suge Knight didn't really have that thing that everybody thought. You know what I mean? Like I said, once again, when you look behind the scenes as to what that really meant, and you see, like I said before, who paid Tupac's memorial for his memorial in Atlanta in November of 1996. It was not Death Row. It was Interscope. Your boy DELRAY. Straight gang.